We're joined now by Ohio Republican Congressman Mike Turner. Congressman, thanks for being with us. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Nancy. Happy Thanksgiving to you also.
So you heard what Sam Vinograd just had to say about the vetting process. You've also heard what administration officials are saying about it. Do you believe that this was a failure of vetting, or do you believe this is someone who just became radicalized or became mentally disturbed here in the United States?
Well, this is very difficult because, I mean, this is classic terrorism. I mean, this is where, an individual, who tries to break the heart of a nation, who doesn't enact a murderous act right before Thanksgiving. I think what Samantha is missing in all of this is that, we didn't go to Afghanistan to bring Afghanis here. We went to Afghanistan to kill Osama bin Laden, to dismantle and destroy al-Qaeda, to avenge 9/11, to dismantle and to overthrow the Taliban, and to ensure that Afghanistan was no longer a safe haven for terrorism. What occurred is that the Biden administration allowed Afghanistan to fall and fled, and in doing so then found itself in a situation where those who had been aiding us were then at risk, and in doing so made the decision. You don't think they
would have been at risk either way?
No, their intention was that they would be still there, that Afghanistan would no longer be a safe haven for terrorists, that it would not be a return to the Taliban, and there would not be a need for those people to be evacuated. You wouldn't see American planes on the tarmac, as you showed, with people running to try to get on them. By the way, those planes wouldn't be being chased by people if they were on their way to China or Russia. They were on their way to America, and those people were fleeing what the Biden administration was allowing to unfold, which is that it would once again be a nation that would be at risk to us. And so, that's how you get to the situation where those individuals are at risk. Now, obviously, the vetting was flawed. By your own report, you showed that individuals who were on our known terrorist watch list made it into this country through that process. So obviously the vetting process.
Then they were identified.
But they made it in. They made it in, right? They made it into this country. So obviously the process was flawed, and it was also a process that should have been unnecessary if there hadn't been this hasty, fall of Afghanistan, which the Biden administration had promised us all that they were not going to run for the exits, and they not only ran for the exits, they did so at night. Congress was, after hearing, raised the issues of the manner in which the Biden administration fled and what the consequences would be, and we're all living with those consequences. Now, the investigation's underway.
Weren't their hands tied in part by the fact that Trump had cut a deal with the Taliban, promising to leave by a certain date?
No, their hands were not tied. The manner in which they did so, and Congress did a number of investigations and a number of hearings and filed a number of reports that showed that it was the actions of the Biden administration, the manner in which they completely withdrew. But that investigation's underway. It's going to be underway as to this individual, and I think we all need to wait for that investigation to be concluded.
The president has called for 500 more National Guard troops to be sent to the nation's capital. Your state has already contributed 150. Do you believe that more troops being deployed is the answer, or do you think it's time to wind this deployment down?
Well, when you ask, is that the answer, you have to first talk about what the question is. And the question is there a national issue of crime and safety? And certainly the American people, by all polls, indicate that people are experiencing it and report that there is. And certainly in the nation's capital, there has been unbelievable reports of just the criminal activity, those individuals who have succumbed to, violent crime. And certainly there's been a reporting that the National Guard presence has made a difference.
Right, no question. I think crime is down 30%, something like that, in D.C. in the last 4 months. I want to turn to Ukraine now, another issue very important to you. A team of Ukrainian negotiators is meeting right now in Miami with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff. What's your understanding of where the negotiations stand right now? There were concerns initially that the White House plan was too pro-Russia. do you still have those concerns?
Well, I think we all have those concerns. The president's goal of peace is incredibly important, and we saw today with Secretary Rubio his statement of we have to have a strong and sovereign Ukraine, and that's everyone's goal, and certainly a prosperous Ukraine. And we saw the Ukrainian representative there who is committed, and we certainly think, and I think everyone thinks that President Zelensky is committed to peace. But one thing that I think everybody understands is that you can't be America first and pro-Russia. Because Russia is a self-declared adversary of the United States. It's fielding new advanced nuclear weapons that are specifically targeting the United States. It's constantly attacking the United States with offensive cyber. It continuously identifies both NATO and the West, the United States, as its adversary. So in this, and of course, when it identifies Ukraine as its adversary, it does so in identifying the West and the United States as its adversary. You have to understand that the balance of this peace arrangement has to be one where you have to look at Russia as a skeptical adversary.
Speaking of the question of being pro-Russian, this week Bloomberg got a hold of this transcript of a call between Steve Witkoff, the special envoy, and a Putin advisor in which Witkoff appeared to be coaching the Russian on how to win over President Trump. And there are several Republicans that have great concerns about that. Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania called it a major problem. Don Bacon of Nebraska said Witkoff fully favors the Russians and should be fired. What do you think?
Well, the part that concerned me most is that there appeared to be an orchestration of giving Putin an opportunity to speak to Trump before President Zelensky was on his way to the White House. And I wouldn't want any orchestration of lessening President Zelensky's relationship with Trump, because it's very important when you have negotiations that, especially as you have, in this instance, Russia is being, obviously unbelievably murderous of the Ukrainian people. It is an aggressive authoritarian regime. In this, it's killing civilians. It is not just, this is not a military against military action. They are bombing into Ukraine and murderously killing civilians in Ukraine. The Ukrainian people are being subjected to this, and President Trump needs to be able to hear Zelensky's voice clearly and not just the authoritarian, murderous Putin.
So given your concerns, should Witkoff continue to serve as one of the main U.S. negotiators here? And should he be sent by President Trump to Moscow this week to meet with Putin?
I think you can't take just one slice of someone's conversation during a long, stretched out aspects of negotiations as reflective. But I think it's certainly important that when we do get that opportunity, that our voices are heard of caution and concern. And the orchestration of inserting Putin's voice before Zelensky's is very concerning. And I think the White House should be very concerned about any efforts to orchestrate Putin's voice at the White House before Zelensky's, because Ukraine's sovereignty and security needs to be preeminent. And we heard that this morning from Rubio, and that needs to be the focus.
Right, and President Trump said this was just regular deal making. I want to turn to Venezuela because you are on the House Armed Services Committee. We've all been watching the military buildup in the waters around Venezuela. Just yesterday, the president said airlines should consider Venezuelan airspace closed. Do you take that to mean that a military operation is imminent?
Well, the president did not say that, and the president certainly has not given Congress any notice that that is going to occur, and he certainly has not made the case. There is a buildup that the president has not explained in a way that relates solely to the actions that are currently going down in the Caribbean, and with respect to the drug trade that the president has been discussing with Congress. It is certainly a significant concern in Congress.
The Washington Post is reporting that before the strike on the very first suspected drug boat in September, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth ordered that everyone on board be killed. And then when 2 of the 11 people on board survived, a follow-on strike was ordered to finish them off in the water. Now, some law of war experts are saying that that was illegal, that killing people who are no longer able to fight is a war crime. What is your view, and what questions do you have for the Pentagon?
Congress does not have information that had occurred. Both the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, chairman of the House Armed Services Committee, and ranking members have opened investigations. Obviously, if that occurred, that would be very serious, and I agree that would be an illegal act. That is not the legal opinion or the information or the legal justification, the acts that have been described to Congress that are being undertaken in this. There are very serious concerns in Congress about the attacks on the so-called drug boats down in the Caribbean and the Pacific, and the legal justification that's been provided. But this is completely outside of anything that has been discussed with Congress, and there is an ongoing investigation.
Very interesting to hear you say that this might be an illegal act. I know your committee is asking more questions. We'd love to learn what you find out. Congressman Mike Turner of Ohio, thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate it.